Hey everyone, welcome to another screencast by me, Amy J. Smiley. It's just a quick one doing a little overcolour again of my colouring methods on this picture of Shamsiel, or as we call her, Shammy, from Kyonyuu Fantasy, which is a series of erotic games slash OVAs. And Shammy is a succubus. I've drawn her before and coloured her, and that picture was quite popular, so I'm just going over here. She's got a nice Starbucks theme because as she likes to monopolise everything in our AU, she's opened up a totally not ripping off coffee shop of her own, which is called Shambucks instead of that other well-known coffee shop that I live in. So she's just doing a bit of a pose with her coffee cup. She's wearing her barista apron, though we're not sure how much work she actually does. But I've got my swatches from my previous picture of Shammy. It's just the sort of colour from actual renders of her. I really don't think there's any other girl in the whole world that's got as many pictures of this hentai character in their art folder as I have, so doesn't say anything weird about me at all. So this is the little talentless bit of any art screencast. I'm just going around just doing the base colouring, making sure everything's where it should be. This doesn't require any talent. It's a nice, easy, sort of veggie little activity you can do while you're not fully concentrating on it. You're just sort of putting down the base colours. I've got little niggly bits to fix with some of this line art, but it's essentially the final piece. It's basically clean. So I'm just piecing bits out. These jagged edges of these wings, I'm just sort of filling them in and then sort of doing a little paint bucket thing on them just to save myself a bit of time. But just with a combination of my my general impatience and my shaky hands, it just makes it a little bit easier for me to cope if I do some of these in large chunks. So there's pretty much nothing that anyone could learn from this part of the screencast. It's just sort of showing again how once you've got the base colours down, it really does start to come together. So some pieces of art you might want to do might be just basically base art, some might be sort of the base coloured art with just simple highlights on. I've done that for a look before, but now I've done a little cut, I'm starting to paint. So now I'm in Manga Studio, which is Manga Studio 5 that I have at the minute. So I'm swatching out some colours here, doing a little light and dark version of each of the main colours in my palette. You can see there's a slight texture down now. In Photoshop I've gone over all my base colours with a texture brush in exactly the same colour, just to add a little bit of texture. I quite like doing that on some of my pieces. So I've laid down a tiny bit of texture that I then paint over, so the texture doesn't sort of dominate the picture, but it lets me merge in the colours quite nicely. So here I'm going and obviously doing the shading on her fleshy bits. So again, some of them may look a bit too grey at the minute. I'm going around slightly lightening them, but just defining the difference between the little cast shadows on her and the little surface shadows. So I'm darkening those up or hardening them up as I want. So as you can see, I put down the shadows quite roughly, and then I soften them a little bit around the edges. Doing the wings here. So this is the same way I would shade any sort of bat or dragon type wings. I'm just applying the same principles to Shammy. So she's got an interesting little textured tail down here, so I'm just doing a little streak of colour down there. I really wasn't content with how I was colouring that, so I fiddled with it a couple of times. So shading sort of quite darkly on her apron, doing all her bits and bobs here. Doing these lovely boots that she actually stole from France, from Italia, because she stole his boots, so he's been going around with pairs of random miscellaneous shoes. So that's why she's got boots like that. They're actually his. So just doing the nice basic shading on the white here. Like I do with my Copic art, I tend to put a little bit of purple into my plain white sort of shadows because I like to add a little bit of tint to it rather than plain grey. But it helps to keep a sort of a full screen view of your picture at certain points as you're going, because it really lets you sort of see how the picture is turning out as a whole, so it's not too weighted in some areas and too light in others. So I'm not fully content with her horns either, but these certain little intricate parts, some days I'm really on, some days I'm really not having a good time with them. So right now on top of my painted layers, I'm going in and just doing nice sort of plain black cell shading on top, which is what I do again, depending on what type of picture I want to be doing. I'm just going in with a flat colour brush. I'm still in Manga Studio. I'm just doing the very basic cell shadows, which I will then, they're obviously not going to remain plain black. I'm going to bring down the opacity on them. So it's just to darken the shadows as I feel like. So that shadow there is a bit uneven because the shadow of the apron is going over both of her legs, which are at different positions respective to the viewer. So go in here. It's all very, very basic stuff. It's just whenever it's sped up, it actually does look quite nice because you can see it sort of all properly together. It lets me add a bit more shape here as well to these horns because they've got quite an intricate shape. Picking out all these different shapes in her hair. Her hair isn't very long, obviously, but it's got multiple layers within it. So I've turned on the opacity now. So as you can see, they just sort of add to the shadows I've already done. So now I'm doing the same in white to pick out some little bits of highlight for myself. This is obviously a very simple style. There's absolutely no attempt to be photoreal here. Look how slow my saving is. I've got so much open. The screencast software really slows down my laptop, so that's the only reason why I don't do them for every picture that I do. Okay, so now I'm going in with my little light blue screening to just sort of highlight nice little edge areas in the picture just to bring out some of those edges, bring out the shape of Shammy. But she has a very fine shape. So it's literally just the edges that I'm highlighting as I go along. Okay, so now I've got this. That's her little custom Starbucks logo, as you can see. Shambucks, totally not ripped off at all. I've got this sort of stained paper texture I got off the internet on a freeware site. So I've stuck that in the background. It kind of looks like coffee paper. So now I'm back in Photoshop now. I'm messing with the hue and saturation of that background. I'm putting my my little website address on there. I've got my signature already done. Just cropping down the picture so it's to a size that I like. See, at this point, this is literally just adding the background and adding a white stroke around the shape of her to bring out her outline. Then I've just made the Shambucks coffee logo nice and big, and I've decided I want to stick it there like a big stamp. So I'm moving it around a bit. Yeah, I decided I wanted to go there. And that's it.